Hello and welcome to the Whiskey Closet. My name is Kevin and tonight we're going to do another first impressions tasting of NULU straight bourbon whiskey. So this is either funny or frustrating. I tried to record this episode last night and everything went wrong. My the battery in my lights died, so the lights cut out, and I'm not making this up. 2 seconds later, the battery on my camera died and the camera conked out too. Fortunately, I noticed that it went out like almost immediately after that. But anyway, we're gonna try to reshoot it tonight. So this is NULU straight bourbon whiskey. It is non-chill filtered. It is 110 proof, 55%. This is batch OH1. This is an OHLQ exclusive that came out on Single Barrel Saturday, which was a silly little event that the state of Ohio did. They did a kind of fun event where they selected a bunch of single barrels or small batches, and they shipped them to certain stores throughout the state, and all on the same morning, a Saturday morning, you could go to those stores and try to get your hands on those products. And so I was lucky enough to get a NULU. I was excited to get a NULU because I'd never seen it sold in Ohio before. I have previously reviewed the NULU French Oak Staves bourbon, and maybe I'll link that video. I bought that one out of state because, like I said, I'd never seen NULU in state before, so I was excited to pick one up. The NULU distillery is a sourcing distillery. They're famous for producing really good, interesting blends. This bourbon says this very small batch of 4 to 6 year MGP bourbon was blended to give consistent flavors in each batch. Our goal is to offer a non-chill filtered bourbon that gives unique tasting notes and a balanced finish. One of the things I think is interesting about this is that they are attempting to blend in very small batches but achieve a consistent flavor across all of those different batches. Which is kind of interesting. Let's give it a try. NULU OHLQ1. So right off the bat, this smells like a high rye. It has some really beautiful baking spice notes and also a really nice kind of sweetness in the nose. Yeah, the nose is really, it's nice. There's some oak impact on there. Maybe a little bit of kind of an orange, little citrus, little orange peel kind of action. Orange peel because there's a hint of something like not bitter, but like bitter and orange peel. There's something in that space. That's a really nice nose. Time to taste. That's good. It's very different. Yeah, that's nice. It is not very sweet. Mostly what I'm getting is some burn from the proof, some spiciness, some drying impact, probably barrel, maybe a touch of vanilla, and the barrel's got kind of a toasty quality to it. That's different. It's surprisingly dry overall, and it's got a very long finish. The proof sort of burns for a long time too. A lot of times that is like a flash in the pan, but on this one, that sort of tingle from the proof really carries through for most of the finish. It's good. It's not wowing me. It's kind of dry. Makes it a little bit astringent. It's lacking some sweetness. So some people may prefer that, people who don't like a sweeter bourbon. I do like the rye spiciness in it. I do like the fact that it's kind of aggressive like that. So it's within my wheelhouse, but it's not quite straight up the middle. So funny story. Like I said, I've never seen NULU in Ohio before, so I was very excited when I could go and get this on Single Barrel Saturday. However, my dad knew that NULU was on my wish list and that I can't get it, and so for Christmas, he bought me a NULU straight bourbon whiskey, which unfortunately, I had only a month or so beforehand managed to get my hands on here in my market. So it was kind of funny. Now, this was such a good bet. There was no way I could have gotten one of these. A really, really good call on his part. But unfortunately, what are the odds? I actually had already got my hands on one. This one is 114.6 proof to the 110. And this is a California 2 batch versus the Ohio 1 batch. Let's try them side by side and see how consistent the blending really is. This is the California. Okay, interesting. First impressions, I feel like this nose is more sweet. I think I'm getting some like caramel notes that I don't remember getting in the Ohio. Less barrel notes, less baking spice notes, although they're there. Maybe they're more similar, but that's just first impression. Oh, huh. So I want to say after the first sip that this is giving me a little more honey sweetness up front, a richer mouthfeel, and then maybe it's a little bit less dry, but after the honey at the front, the rest of the experience is pretty much the same. All that spice, a lot of heat, and then barrel impact to sort of finish it out. It did feel like maybe it was a little less dry. Second sip, more drying. That kind of toasted quality is still there. Very good. I don't think there's any chance that I'll be able to tell these apart, but there's only one way to find out. Okay, little orange peel. That toasty thing is kind of coming across on the nose a lot this time. Nice honey up front. Dry, spice, long, dry finish. All right. Oh, I'm getting more of a rye nose on this. Less of the sweetness, more rye spice. A little more florals. Very little sweetness at all. Big spike of proof and spice. Extra dry finish. Am I going to be right about this? Is this California and this is Ohio? No. Ohio and California. So there you go. I can't tell them apart. No surprise there. The surprise is that I thought I might have actually been able to tell them apart. Getting those herbal notes and the rye spice. Didn't get a ton of sweetness. Spikes of rye, dry, that toasty thing. Wow. Really getting a lot more of a floral herbal thing now. That seemed more honeyed, more herbal, and then the dry. So previously I would have thought, like from my first tastings, that sort of honeyed thing I was associating with the California. When I just did the blind tasting, I thought I was getting a little more of that out of the Ohio. So let's go with that. Maybe this is the Ohio and this is the California. It is. That's the Ohio. That's the California. I think I've noticed this before. Sometimes when I taste things blind and get them wrong, a lot of times those are the notes I should trust, not the notes I thought I was getting when I knew what was in the glass. Even in a situation like these, when they're practically the same, it's interesting that that seems to keep happening to me. We'll explore in future episodes. So as I was tasting through these, the thing that it was reminding me the most of, I think, is Kentucky Owl Confiscated. This is a probably very overpriced bourbon that most people love to hate on because of the price. When I first bought it, I really, really loved it. And then as of late, I haven't really enjoyed it as much anymore. But there was something about the rye notes and the dryness that was just sort of, I don't know, it was making me think of this. So let's compare them. Spin dime, spin, 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 spin. Starting here. Nice baking spices, a little hint of kind of a citrus, immediately a little drying, a little spicy, or kind of a lot spicy, and long dry finish, all savory, big time savory. All right, let's try this. Oh, wow. That nose is got something very herbaceous in it, but different than what I normally get when I say that word. A little bit of a licorice maybe, like real sweet licorice. Wow, so much rye. Crazy herbal notes. Little floral kind of thing happening. And then a spike of barrel. Finishes very dry. That's the Kentucky Owl, and that's the NULU. I actually didn't change the labels on these. Apparently that's the Kentucky Owl, though, because that was in the Ohio glass. I just got these wrong? Huh. That's not the Kentucky Owl. That's like what I think the NULU was. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that toasted note. Wow. All those floral notes that I was not picking up on originally. Wow. And that dry finish. Huh. My recollection was pretty decent. These are surprisingly similar. I should have said before I figured out what they were. But I've got a preference for the first glass, I think. Hey, go figure. These are really very similar. And I can't believe how in comparison, how much herbalness I'm getting from the NULU now. I was picking up on like baking spices, like a strong baking spice nose, but the nose on the Kentucky Owl is so much more kind of leather that I think the contrast is bringing out all the floral and herbal character from the NULU. The fact that it's dry all the way through is what's pushing me over to this glass, which is the Kentucky Owl. How about that? Well, not what I was expecting. Okay, what a fun result. So I paid $125 for this bottle of Kentucky Owl. At the time that I bought it, it was by far the most expensive bottle I'd ever purchased. I bought it because I loved how contentious it was. There were a lot of people who were just immediately put off because of that high price point. There were other people who were raving about how good the flavor is. This was back when the master distiller hadn't changed yet, and people were a big fan of that master distiller. Anyway, so $125 versus I paid $55 for this NULU. Is the Kentucky Owl $70 better than the NULU? Now, that is not ordinarily the way that I like to think about these things. You paid what you paid, you got the bottle that you got, you might as well enjoy it. But if you're looking at the two of these on the shelf and trying to make a decision, well, I like the Kentucky Owl better, but I mistook it for the NULU on my first blind taste here. So I don't know. Take that as you will. Okay, this has been another episode of The Whiskey Closet. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time. Goodbye.